Hey, how's it going? Stephen here from understandingaudio.com with an answer to another question that I get all the time. Now, the question that I get is, how do I mix virtual instruments? And it makes sense that I get this question all the time because people are using virtual instruments more and more in their mixes, and lots of people are making music simply by using virtual instruments alone. The main follow-up question is, how do I actually treat these virtual instruments versus real instruments? And by real instruments, I mean something that has been recorded by you or an engineer in a room with a microphone and a sound source in front of you, like a singer or an acoustic guitar. Now, my mixing approach is based on concepts, techniques, and systems to cater for everything. So when it comes to virtual instruments, I apply the same techniques that I use for mixing real instruments, like I described earlier, or a mix with a combination of real instruments and virtual instruments. It's all the same. Once you understand and you're able to apply these concepts and techniques within a system, your approach should be very flexible, and you should be able to apply what you've learned in one style to another style of mixing. I'm going to show you a proven mixing technique pretty early on in the production process of how you can start mixing your virtual instruments so that as you're working through the production process, your track will more or less mix itself. You can see here that I've got a MIDI drum loop playing, and that is a Studio Drummer loop from Kontakt. All I've done is find the loop that I wanted and just dragged it across into my session, added some fills in, the usual sort of stuff. And you can hear what that sounds like. Now you notice straight away that there is no kick drum in that loop. And the reason being is that the very first thing that I do when I create a drum loop is I duplicate it and then remove all of the elements out of the loop that are not the kick drum. So I leave the kick drum isolated on a new track. And this track below it labeled kick is that track. I'll also obviously remove the kick drum as you heard from this drum sample above this track. The reason why I do this is because I balance the low end of my mix first. I achieve this balance by using a trick that Jakir King uses and has taught to many. It's been shown in so many videos online now and mentioned in so many articles that you can look that up yourself. But I'm going to show you what I do and how I apply that to the virtual instruments in my mix. Up here at the top of my mix, I've got all of my stereo bus processing bypassed. Also all of the bus processing on any vocals, drums, music all pulled out. All of the processing in this section is turned off so you can hear how I actually started this, how I actually started to put this mix together. The first thing I did is put this VU meter on the stereo bus and linked it left and right. Shameless plug in the middle. Then with my kick drum soloed, I want to see where this needle hits on the VU meter. Now you can see that when the kick drum was playing, the needle was hitting at the -3 mark. And that was intentional because I already pre-adjusted the trim level so that the kick would hit that point. The whole idea is that when the kick is played in isolation, it hits this -3 mark. But when you add in the bass, the two of them together will hit 0 on the VU meter. Now you can see mine went in and around 0, probably up to about 1.4, but I'm okay with that because I could see that compression will probably round that out a little bit later in the mix. All that I did to make sure that the kick and the bass were hitting 0 on the VU meter is adjust my fader on the bass down here. So you'll see that when I play this back again, if I adjust this fader, the needle moves too. So it's just about finding that sweet spot where the needle hits 0 with the kick and the bass playing together, and it was in around 4.8 or so. Once I have my kick and my bass balanced, I come up to the top. I just turn this VU meter off, just get rid of it, take it off my stereo bus, and then I start bringing in the other elements in the mix. The first thing I'll do is go back to the original drum loop that you heard and mix that in with the kick and the bass. Now, if I had that fader at 0, the same as the kick, it just doesn't sound as well balanced. The rest of the drums sound too distant, so what I did was just simply bring that fader up. Now from this point I can start to add in all the other elements in the mix. You can see that I've got an extra kick sample, snare sample, toms, and then I can start to bring in all my synths and vocals and just start to mix it all in nicely, because I've got those foundational elements of the kick and the bass and the drums nicely balanced, and I can move on positively with the rest of my mix. Now the reason why that Jacquire King technique works so well is because that 3 dB difference between where the kick hits and the kick and the bass hit together represents a doubling of sound intensity or acoustic power. It's not about loudness, it's about the intensity of the sound combined. That is why they sound balanced together. It's not about a doubling in loudness. A doubling the loudness would be something like a difference of 10 dB, but this 3 dB difference is a doubling of acoustic power. It's important to remember this because the kick and the bass, this 3 dB difference is actually probably about 1.23 times the loudness or something like that. So by using this proven mixing technique, you now have the foundations of your mix. And as I said earlier, you can start to pull in all the rest of the elements of your mix and get it completed pretty quickly. As you're going along and as you're producing, you can also make sure that any other elements and any other instruments that you bring into the mix, any new parts, are automatically adjusted at their fader level to match your low end. So the track mixes itself as you go along. Now, I absolutely guarantee you that this one simple tip will help you make a great start when it comes to mixing virtual instruments. It will stop you getting lost, and as I said, that foundation is there, so you can just build everything else in around it. Now, with that said, I really want to share one other simple tip with you that my subscribers over at understandingaudio.com are using every day to get their mixes sounding like the pros in such a simple, effective way. I put together a free guide for them and for you that you can use to get your mixes sounding like the pros starting today. This free guide is full of simple tips and proven techniques like the one I've just shown you that guarantees you get a unique pro-sounding mix every time you sit down to mix. I get emails every day from my subscribers letting me know how this one hack has completely changed their mixing approach and given them great results. And I don't want you to miss out. So to grab it for free, go to getpromixes.com. Now, once you've gone ahead and downloaded the guide, make sure to leave a comment below about how you approach mixing virtual instruments. I'll be back with another video very soon, and in the meantime, enjoy your day and enjoy making great music.